Hi everyone, just wanted to talk about a particular last three triples case and avoiding two flip. Some thoughts about whether it's worth doing or not. So, as a reminder, two flip is a last three triples case where you have two triples that need to flip over. That's the definition. So, the solution is only 8 moves long. You do a hedge and you do a sledge. So it's not a very difficult case to execute, but it does, it's 8 moves and it's not ideal. And it turns out you can avoid it every time. And to think about whether or not it's worth trying to avoid, I'm going to talk about 4x4. Oh, let me get my other 4x4. And this particular PLL parity case here. So, pretty messy stuff. But what's important is we have headlights, and this is an opposite color. So if you imagine we've got these two edges need to swap, these two edges need to swap, and these corners need to swap. If you perform your PLL parity algorithm, you're swapping two edges. You could swap, say, these two edges, or you could swap these two edges. And in the first example, if I swap the edges by the headlights, I get an F perm. Let me show you. Get an F perm. But if I instead swap the edges here, so that the headlights are on my left, say, I get a T perm. And why is this important? Why does it matter? Well, an F perm is 4 moves longer than a T perm. In fact, the F perm algorithm is literally a few setup moves, followed by a T perm, and then a few extra moves afterwards. So in every case, every time rather, that you would arrive at that specific PLL parity, well, you would deliberately give yourself a T perm. T perm can be executed faster, it's literally shorter, and it's more ergonomic, so why not give yourself the T perm? There's no point giving yourself a worse case. So here's back to FDO. And the reason I use that example is because, well, it's possible to avoid two flip, and maybe two flip makes your solution worse. So let's go over this example. These two and these two just need to swap their triangles, and then blue's doing whatever it is over here. So it's not a great case for your last three triples. But this first example would just do standard pair formation. So I'll match up the pink, say, and then I'll flip the pink to the top, and I'll put the blue on the bottom, like this. But if I do a U prime, now I've got one flip. So instead of a U prime, I can do a U. Then I'll rotate, and then I'll work on pairing these two up. So far, so good. Pretty okay solution. And then let's say I give myself two flip. So I'm now going to flip these two. So I'll flip the yellow triple onto the top, and then flip both of the blue pieces onto the bottom, like so. And when I match them up, now I've got two flip. So now I have 8 moves to solve the puzzle. But let me show you a way of solving this without giving yourself two flip. Start the same way, so I pair up the pink, flip it to the top, and instead of matching the blues, because we'll get one flip, we place the paired up triple rather, over that yellow piece, rotate, match these up, and this is the crucial difference. Instead of just using a hedge to place these two down and matching up here, I will instead perform any flip that will flip these two triples and place this triangle on a face that is not the same color as it. In other words, I can do this, which is just a sledge, and now I have them paired up and not two flip. So now it's only 4 moves to solve it instead of 8. I'm doing it wrong. Backwards sledge is this. Okay, there we go. If you don't like performing sledge, alternatively you can rotate and do inverse hedge like so, and then just do inverse hedge again to solve it. So the reason that I'm asking this is two flip saves you two flip adds 4 moves to the solve. Always. Because it's 8 moves long, and it lands on the penultimate flip of the solve. That's when you decide whether or not to give yourself 2 flip. And for people who are much faster and more advanced, it's trivial to avoid 2 flip. It's not a difficult thing to do. It's very easy, and most people know, sort of have the common sense to avoid 1 flip because it is a really bad case. But 2 flips are not so bad. It's pretty easy to execute, so people don't feel so inclined to avoid it, which is understandable. But let's say that you have a TPS of around 3, and you give yourself 2 flip on every case, on every solve rather. Of course, you wouldn't really do that, but in this hypothetical, let's say you do, on average, you are going to be 1.3 seconds slower than if you simply don't give yourself 2 flip. So, the kind of question I'm getting towards is 2 flip or not 2 flip? Should we give ourselves this bad case? Give ourselves this okay case because we know how to execute the case quicker, or should we spend a little bit of time to think about avoiding it? And I think, for myself, avoiding it is a better approach because then our solution is, 4 moves shorter. But if you're, hitting 6 turns per second, does it really matter? I don't know. Let me know what you think.